Now
on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
All right, I'm going to try not to be so mad now, Patrice. I don't like starting my day mad. People always used to say, "Why aren't you more fiery, Larry? Why aren't you?" I'm sorry, you got a groove on over there, Patrice?
Oh my goodness, this is the intro to a fun song. Mace, Puff Daddy.
Duh, of course.
Yeah,
I know. Yeah.
Well, yes, it was. They sampled.
It was
Cool in the
originally
Gang.
Cool in the Gang.
They sampled
and
Cool
then,
in the Gang, and then they turned it into
they should probably
Bad Boys.
Write some of their old music.
I'm
anyway,
let me refocus.
The
my
point
mind.
is, I mean, people always say, geez, Larry, why aren't you a little more fiery, and why aren't you more like Mark Levin?
Oh,
and I say, well, I love Mark Levin, but who wants to wake up to Mark Levin? In fact, I know Mrs.
Your personality.
Levin. Yeah, well,
and your person, you're a happy warrior, Larry. We've got the Mad Warriors.
Even a happy warrior can take just so much.
That is true.
And last night was about my limit, but we're gonna continue to keep this morning going in an upbeat fashion because honestly, the silver lining of last night, in my opinion, in that vitriolic, angry, ferocious State of the Union speech that can only serve to divide this nation, is that it makes the choice even that much clearer. And as I said, and I think Donald Trump actually has a lane here where he can sort of come in and say, listen, Donald Trump is a funny guy, and he can work a crowd, and he can be affable. And all the lies about how he's a hate monger and he's this and he's that. No, Biden actually displayed that last night.
So you could take the personality off the table and then focus on issues. That's what I think that allows for.
Yeah, either way we're going to but actually I think Trump could actually flip this and not take personality off the table by saying Biden's personality is angry and erratic. And Trump is actually a kind of a fun, affable guy that you'd want to spend more time with. Well, we'll see. On the upside, though, we do have plenty more to discuss this morning.
We do.
And he gives us more to talk about. And also, I neglected to tell you, we added Mark Krikorian for Center for Immigration Studies to break apart many of the lies that Biden said about the border last night. 7:05, Rob Whitman, a congressman of Virginia, will join us. And at 8:05, KT McFarland on national security issues. All right, so here's a little bit more. Should we delve into the immigration stuff here, or do we want to show some of the let's go into the immigration stuff, because he did discuss the border he was either going to completely ignore it or, again, lie and blame Republicans, and of course he did the latter.
In November, my team began serious negotiation with a bipartisan group of senators.
Hold on. I'm going to let you finish. Think about what he just said. He conceded here. In November, my team started serious negotiations. November
of 2023.
Yeah. So he waited 3 years to even begin negotiating. And why? Because it was exactly 1 year before Election Day.
Exactly.
That's why.
That's exactly right.
So up until November, when his team started these negotiations, they denied there even was a crisis to fix.
Yeah, they pretended like it was just a figment of our imagination.
That's right. And so then in November, he decides to negotiate.
It's a bipartisan bill with the toughest set of border security reforms we've ever seen. Oh, you don't think so? Oh, you don't like that bill, huh? That conservatives got together and said it was a good bill? I'll be darned. That's amazing. That bipartisan bill would hire 1,500 more security agents and officers, 100 more immigration judges to help tackle the backload of 2 million cases, 4,300 more asylum officers, and new policies so they can resolve cases in 6 months instead of 6 years now. What are you against? 100 more high-tech drug detection machines to significantly increase the ability to screen and stop vehicles smuggling fentanyl into America. That's killing thousands of children. This bill would save lives and bring order to the border. It will also give me and any new president new emergency authority to temporarily shut down the border when the number of migrants at the border is overwhelming. The Border Patrol Union has endorsed this bill. The Federal Chamber of Commerce is, You're saying low. Look at the facts. I know you know how to read.
Wow.
There you go.
Insulting,
Yeah.
lying. He ignores everything he said is about processing more people in. That's all those
That's not
the
border
agents,
security.
the clerks or judicial judges to be able to adjudicate asylum claims. That's all about bringing more people in. Oh, and when it gets a little bit, there are too many people, then we're just going to shut the line down for the day, and then we'll reopen the line again tomorrow. That he is so disingenuous. I am really restraining myself from calling him the L
Patrice,
word.
remember, we're gonna be happy. We're gonna approach this.
I'm saying this with a smile, folks.
Ladies and
He
gentlemen,
is being disingenuous.
If you ever wanted to imagine Mark Levin as a black woman from the Caribbean, you've got Patrice Onwuka right
Here
now.
I am. No, listen. Everything he just said is totally ridiculous.
Yeah.
And by the way, he neglects the 91 executive orders that he overturned on day one that led to the crisis that we're dealing with now. And he ignores the fact that the House Republicans passed a bill that would actually stop the flow, not just make processing easier, but stop the processing and stop the magnet that's drawing people here illegally.
You're 100% right, and he did ignore all of those executive actions that he celebrated when he did. Don't be at all. You're right. All of the new border agents knew this, knew that. It's all about processing the people who are getting in illegally. It's not actually securing the border. He also threw this in.
Place on earth. They came freely. Some came.
Oh, that's the wrong one. I'm sorry. He threw this one in here. Listen.
Children. This bill would save lives and bring order to the border. It will also give me and any new president new emergency authority to temporarily shut down the border.
New emergency authority to temporarily shut down the border. This bill would give me or any other president new emergency authority to shut down the border.
Power.
Yeah. Hang on a second. This is a headline from the White House dated January 20th, 2021. What day did Joe Biden get sworn into president? Do you remember? It was January 20th, 2021. Yeah. This is the day he was sworn in. They put this press release out. I'll read you the headline. Proclamation on the termination of emergency with respect to the southern border of the United States and redirection of funds diverted to border wall construction.
Day one.
On day one, he reversed the authority that was already there and is still there.
Yes.
Donald Trump declared an emergency and he shut down the border. Joe Biden got into office and reversed it and terminated it. And now he's saying that he needs this bill so that he can have new emergency authority. Those were his words. I just played them for you.
Yeah.
He doesn't need that.
He doesn't.
Again,
He's lying.
where's George Stephanopoulos with this fact check?
They're not. CNN, Jake Tapper, they're not going to fact check him.
Because they're part of it. All right. Do you want more on the border? Let's do more on the border.
I will not demonize immigrants saying they are poison in the blood of our country. I will not separate families. I will not ban people because of their faith. Unlike my predecessor on my first day in office, I introduced a comprehensive bill.
He's in there 3 years, and he still can't stop talking about Donald Trump. My predecessor, my predecessor, my predecessor. I will not demonize him.
He mentioned him 13 times in last night's speech.
Demonize immigrants is a fascinating phrase because technically, the people who are coming in here illegally are not immigrants. They're asylum seekers.
They claim to be.
I'm not saying they are. Yeah, you're right. They're asylum claimants.
Until
that have yet to be adjudicated.
Yeah, or adjudicated. Yeah.
And nobody's demonizing them. Only the ones who murder innocent people.
Thank you.
And spread mayhem on our streets. Hold that thought. There's more on this. And then, like I said, Mark Krikorian's going to unpack a lot of the immigration lies, too, in a moment. First, though, 6:50.
WMAL, making sense of the markets, because generational wealth doesn't build itself. Download the WMAL app to stream us for free.
All right, Patrice, I asked you to hold that thought, and just to remind you what inspired that thought that you're currently holding.
I will not demonize immigrants saying they are poison in the blood of our country.
All right.
Well, he demonized illegal immigrants by calling them illegals during the speech. I mean, Nancy Pelosi, we played the clip earlier.
That was Nancy's big...
She's like, yeah, they're supposed to be calling them undocumented. No one is demonizing illegal immigrants. They call them migrants. They call them undocumented. Hey, I'm a naturalized citizen, meaning I'm illegal. I came to this country legally.
Right.
What we worry about are those coming here illegally. We don't know who they are. They haven't been vetted. They haven't gone through the rigorous health screenings and vaccinations that my family and I had to go through just to come to this country. So there's no demonizing. It's just calling out facts, President Biden.
Of course it is. And well, listen, we've played so much of this and how divisive and acrimonious it was, and how it's amazing how many pictures, and you just scroll news sites right now.
Yeah.
They have still shots, and he has his mouth open, shouting with a frown on his face almost every single image. I think he's got 2 volumes, shout and whisper. I don't think there. I don't. I literally because there is such a thing. I've looked into it because I kind of use my voice for a living. You know, how many years can I keep doing this? You reach a point when your voice box ages. It's why when he goes out on the campaign trail, they give him that mic that he speaks right into. The little karaoke mic. Even though the podium has those mics, he always puts the mic right up to his voice. Right up to his mouth, because it's the only way he'll be heard unless he shouts. And of course, he couldn't do that here at this speech. He couldn't hold the mic. So he shouted.
He had to shout.
He shouted the entire thing. But I want you to hear how he finished. Okay,
go for it.
Sorry. So because we played over an hour and 15 minutes now. We played all of the shouting and all of the anger and all of the vitriol. And here's how he ended.
I will always be president for all Americans because I believe in America. I believe in you, the American people. You're the reason we've never been more optimistic about our future than I am now. So let's build the future together. Let's remember who we are. We are the United States of America. And there is nothing beyond our capacity.
I love all Americans, even you MAGA fascists out there.
After he has been dragging people through the mud. Listen, last night we saw who Joe Biden is, who he is with staff behind closed doors. All, as I said earlier, all that was missing were the F-bombs and the expletives. He cursed people out.
Well,
just
so you know, there were F-bombs in my living room. I was watching it.
But we are seeing that he is not the jolly, loving, sympathetic, empathetic grandpa.
No, he's
actually a very mean person. And remember when he came into office, he said, if anyone is mean and nasty, if anyone is unkind in my administration, I'm firing them.
Yeah, well.
Is it time for him to step aside yet?
Tucker Carlson did a live reaction last night on the X platform.
Well, that was quite an experience watching that. You think of Joe Biden as a doddering old man, a guy who can't remember when his son died or when he served as vice president. And of course, that's exactly who he is, and it's on display every day. But Joe Biden is also a cruel and vicious demagogue, a man who has no problem at all denouncing his fellow Americans or putting his political opponents in prison as he has done. And that was all on display tonight. That was possibly the darkest, most un-American speech ever given by an American president. In fact, it wasn't a speech. It was a rant, entirely lacking in decency or generosity to his fellow Americans.
That's well said. Well said, my friend Tucker. And Marco Rubio on CNN.
Right behind him, and I believe that's a hat that says Make America Great Again.
A MAGA hat, and then there are buttons that we understand.
Sorry. Actually, it was Marco Rubio on Fox News, and here's that.
Well, it's a proof of life speech, right? That's what it was. I'm alive, and I'm able to give a speech that I can read off a teleprompter, and I'm able to do the whisper, but mostly the screaming, and I'm able to say things that are really mean about the Republican Party and the Supreme Court, and I can make claims that they're going to get rid of Social Security, things that don't exist. And it makes a lot of the people in that room, some of them are pretty radical, very happy. So I imagine if you're watching some of these other networks, some of these commentators, which are a bunch of buffoons, they're just reading the talking points that are being sent to them. So I think it achieved the proof of life that maybe some of them, they just wanted to get through tonight.
That is actually funny. It was a proof of life speech.
It is 100% accurate.
CNN special correspondent Jamie Gangle. Isn't she like Nancy Pelosi's daughter or something? Or Jamie Gangle's right here.
The two things that we never like to talk about, high energy and his age. He addressed his age. He came across with high energy. All the Republicans, I have a phone full of Republicans saying that was a campaign speech, but even they admit that he delivered.
Well, at least he had energy.
Yeah.
And Jamie Gangle, by the way, she's an executive producer over there.
I don't think
and
he
married
has,
to Daniel Silva. That's who Jamie Gangle.
I don't think he has much energy. I'm just on his public schedule right now, and there is nothing until 1:40 when he and the First Lady depart the White House.
Oh, for vacation.
So he
oh no, he's
probably
in rest and recuperation mode for the next 4 days at
Exactly.
least. Yeah, another CNN.
The speech unfolds on their television sets. They felt like he was high energy. He landed his major lines. They appreciated the banter that he had with Republicans as he was trying to call them out for inaction in some of their policies. Obviously, there were no major mistakes. So all in all, they were incredibly happy with the way that the speech was delivered.
Maybe it's me. I just have an ear for these things. But if you're a CNN reporter and you're not supposed to express opinions, shouldn't she have said they were happy he called Republicans out for their alleged inaction, their supposed inaction, or in his opinion, their inaction? No. It's just a fact at CNN.
She just read the press release and the backup talking
the
points
case.
on
there
air
it is.
as news.
6:23.
Now
on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
Good Friday morning to you. It's 6:36 now on this day in your nation's capital. Coming up at 7:05, Representative Rob Whitman of Virginia to react to what he heard last night in the House chamber. Yeah. 7:35, Tim Graham, Media Research Center. And then at 8:05, KT McFarland on the state of the world today and the State of the Union. Joining us, of course, this morning is the sweet child of mine, Patrice Onwuka.
Is that what the song is?
Yeah.
I didn't know that's the name.
See,
of
you
it.
know your Puff Daddy songs, and I know my
right?
Guns N' Roses.
There you
That's
go.
why we're such a match made in heaven.
There you go.
Although I assure you, Guns N' Roses did not sample Kool and the Gang. They wrote their own stuff. Thank you very much.
It is true. There's a lot of sampling going on.
All right, let's sample a little bit of Joe Biden last night as he did turn his sights to the border.
Look, folks, we have a simple choice. We can fight about fixing the border, or we can fix it. I'm ready to fix it. Send me the border bill now.
Well, he is right that we can either fight about fixing it or we can fix it. The problem is I don't think he is ready to fix it, not if he says send me that border bill. Mark Krikorian from Center for Immigration Studies joins us, and that border bill is not really a fix to the border by any stretch of the imagination, Mark.
No, it's not. And the House of Representatives passed a border bill last May that actually would have fixed things. And the Democrats in the Senate said, yeah, we're not going to talk about that.
Right.
And unfortunately, Republican leadership said, oh, okay. And they just basically gave in to the Democrats before the negotiating even started. So anyway,
wait a minute. That doesn't
surprised,
sound like Republicans in the Senate. Oh, no, wait a
Yeah.
second. That sounds exactly like Republicans in the Senate.
Unfortunately, that's true. And, I was surprised. Yesterday, I expected something different, that he would announce something notable. And it was just more of the same. This is the same nonsense he's been saying all along. The one thing that was interesting is he did mention Laken Riley's name, the poor girl who was murdered by an illegal alien, and he said killed by an illegal. He actually referred to the illegal alien. And so I think in the White House, that must have been that must have been some controversy to decide whether he was going to be allowed to say and killed by an illegal.
Well, it was off script.
Exactly.
And by the way, I don't know if but here was Nancy Pelosi's after speech reaction to that.
Now, you should have said undocumented, but that's not a big thing.
It's not a big thing. He should have said undocumented. Her anger is at the use of the word illegal instead of, the murder of an innocent girl.
Yeah.
And I don't actually think that was off script. I think they didn't include it in the remarks that they gave the media.
Okay.
But it was all planned out. I mean, of course it was planned out.
Well, it's interesting because I'm looking through the transcript right now, and the word illegal isn't there, but I think you're right. He was prepared. And if we played a little bit earlier, Mark, but he went through and said, okay, well, this is what the border bill would have done. It would have hired judges to adjudicate asylum cases. It would have brought in more Border Patrol agents to to, speed up the processing, so to speak. Talk to us about why that border, some of the things he mentioned, and just the border bill itself, the so-called bipartisan border bill, would not do a single thing to actually stem the tide of the millions of illegal immigrants coming in here every fiscal year now.
It almost certainly would have made it worse, in fact, because he didn't mention, he mentioned, okay, there's more Border Patrol agents. The Republicans before that, more border judges, more immigration judges. Okay, although you got to change the policies, otherwise you're not doing anything. The problem is that the bill would have put into law catch and release. It would have required the release of illegal immigrants who had expressed an intention to apply for asylum, when in fact what the law says now is that any illegal immigrant has to be kept in detention until his case is done. Because they've stopped doing that, more people come and the numbers just keep growing. The president can't do everything that needs to get done without changes in the law. That's true. We do need changes in the law. But, boy, he can make a real start on it. Look, Donald Trump stabilized the border with the same powers that Biden has now.
Yeah.
What did he do magically? You know what I mean? He didn't fix everything, but he stabilized it. This president won't even say, okay, I'm going to do this for the next 4 months, and then I'm going to come back and ask for this bill. Something like that would have at least been plausible on its face. All he did yesterday was make the same attempts to blame Republicans for the thing that he caused.
Speaking with Mark Krikorian, Center for Immigration Studies, and let's explore that a little further here in terms of what President Biden said about this bill, because that's not, he doesn't want to fix the problem at the border. He wants to have a political deflection come this November, and in this case, even a political weapon. He wants to be able to blame Republicans. But if we can unpack it a little bit, here's what he said.
In November, my team began serious negotiation with a bipartisan group of senators.
Now, right there is kind of a reveal, because in November, 3 years into his presidency, where he was saying there was no crisis at the border, then he sends a team to negotiate. So already he's admitting that he waited for a long time until he seriously considered any sort of fix on the border, number one. But number two, he's going to use this and try to make the border in some way go on offensive and make Republicans feel defensive about their position on the border. Considering the state of the border and the illegal crossings right now, and compared to where it was in 2016 when it was such an effective political talking point for Donald Trump, Mark, it seems to me that this is a horrible political calculation. If you know one thing about Donald Trump, it's about the border and about how he is passionate about fixing the border. And right now, Biden has conceded that it needs a fix. So why would you go with Biden, the guy who broke it, when you could go with the guy who, the one thing about Trump, is that he'll fix the border?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if he wants voters to say, okay, who's more likely to do a good job at the border, even if you just start from scratch, Donald Trump or Joe Biden, obviously it's Donald Trump. So, I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to make lemonade out of lemons. And I just don't see, I don't see how anybody's going to believe that who isn't already a partisan for the president.
Well, I'll tell you, they're counting on the mainstream media not doing what we just did. And then it's probably a safe bet, actually, Mark.
Yeah, maybe. And, look, they don't have to – how many people do they have to win? 100,000 people in 3 swing states. You know what I mean? Yeah. So maybe. We'll see.
Hey, can you stick with us, Mark? There's way too much, not just with the State of the Union, but also just happening with immigration and the border issues right now with crime as well. And I'd love it. It's been a while since we touched base with you.
Sure, happy to stay.
Mark Krikorian, Center for Immigration Studies, stays with us at 6:44.
I'd be a winner. Not really. Lincoln Riley, an innocent young woman who was killed by an illegal. That's right. But how many of thousands of people being killed by illegals?
All right. That's, I guess, one way to address Lincoln Riley. Her name is Lincoln Riley. We're continuing with Mark Krikorian, Center for Immigration Studies. Go ahead, Patrice.
Yeah, Mark, we're coming off Super Tuesday. And remember on Super Tuesday, we had this viral clip of MSNBC hosts, this gaggle of women cackling because Virginia voters, their top concern was immigration. And Jen Psaki, former press secretary for Biden, said, oh, yeah, well, obviously Virginia has a border with West Virginia. So obviously that's why Virginia voters are worried about immigration. Why do you think that the left is so unwilling to admit what's going on with the southern border and how now every state has become a border state? What are they missing that the rest of us are catching?
Well, they're not really missing anything. They just look at this thing totally differently. They do not believe that the borders of the United States are legitimate and that the American people have the right to say no. They see borders, national borders, especially America's border, as basically like the district line between Maryland and D.C. In other words, it decides who's going to fill the potholes, but that's about it. It doesn't have any substantive difference. It's just not right to stop people who want to come across. And so if they're subverting the immigration law, which they have been for 3 years now, that's kind of heroic, actually, in their view, because it is basically Jim Crow to say that foreigners are not allowed to move here. It's discriminatory and racist, and therefore it's morally wrong. And, things happen. Criminals come and kill people, and such is life. We're just going to have to.
Mark Krikorian, when we first talked about, well, we've been talking about this for over a decade, of course, but when the border and illegal immigration really became a central national issue during the 2016 campaign, it was, I think, seen by many Americans as an issue. For those who didn't care passionately already about it, for many Americans who didn't have a vested interest in it, it was seen as something that affected Texas and New Mexico and Arizona and California. And, it was a federal issue. It's immigration. Maybe we'll figure out a way to get these people here. If they come illegally, we'll figure out all that stuff. Things are very different right now. Things are different after we've seen the last 3 years and the fact that so many of the illegal immigrants have been flown into cities all across the country, mostly by the Biden administration. Yeah. And then the crime issue. You add to that the crime issue. I wonder if you could reflect, based on your experience and also based on the various research that Center for Immigration Studies does, how has this discussion changed and how different is it going to be during this presidential election?
Yeah, I mean, the crime issue, people misunderstand sometimes. In other words, illegal immigrants, it's not really clear whether they're more likely or less likely to commit crimes. And I'm not talking about immigration crimes, because everybody who jumps the border is committing a crime. There's contradictory data on this, and it's just not as clear as people want to say, well, illegals are less likely to commit crime. Maybe, maybe not. It doesn't look like that in one batch of data. Other batches of data, it does. The thing that matters, and this is what infuriates regular people, is that one crime by an illegal alien is one crime too many. Who cares what the rate is? Laken Riley's family doesn't care whether illegal immigrants as a group have a higher or lower crime rate. What they care about is that this guy that the administration let go into the United States, that local sanctuary policies protected from the consequences of being illegal, that guy who should never have been here murdered their daughter. And that same thing is replicated over, drunk drivers, all kinds of crimes like this. None of those crimes should ever have happened. And the federal government bears at least partial responsibility for those. And when the federal government had that person in custody and then let him go into the United States, they bear a lot of the responsibility for any crime that person commits.
Yeah, that's a great point. Right. And I think that is potentially the way this issue will resonate even more than it already has in the past. Mark Krikorian, thank you for sticking around for a second segment. You made it worth our while. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
It's Center for Immigration Studies. That's where Mark and his team are doing such great work. It's now 6:53.